Have you ever heard of a man who thought life was playing a cruel joke on him, only to discover that the very thing he laughed at became his greatest blessing? Today, I'll tell you a story that will shake your heart, a story of pride, pain, and an unexpected love that changed lives forever. In a quiet western town, there was a wealthy sheriff named Thomas McGraw, a man feared and respected by all. He had everything: of power, money, and influence. But behind his tough exterior, he carried a heavy burden. His daughter, Emily, once the pride of his family. Emily had been paralyzed after a tragic horse-riding accident. She could no longer walk, and worse, she lived in the shadow of shame. The townsfolk whispered behind their hands, and Thomas's pride kept him from showing her openly. To him, she was fragile, broken, and a reminder of his failure to protect her. Not far from town lived Jacob, a hard-working rancher. He wasn't wealthy or powerful, but he was known for his honesty and determination. Jacob's ranch barely produced enough to keep him alive, and people mocked him for being poor. Yet Jacob carried himself with quiet dignity, never asking for favors. One evening, in the sheriff's grand saloon, men gathered for drinks and laughter. To entertain his friends, Thomas made a cruel joke. He said, "What good is a paralyzed daughter? She's no use to me. Maybe I should give her away to that rancher who can't even keep his cattle fed." The men roared with laughter, mocking both Jacob and Emily. But Thomas's pride made him carry the joke further. The next morning, he called Jacob and, half seriously, half mockingly, offered Emily's hand in marriage. To Thomas's shock, Jacob looked him straight in the eyes and said, "If you mean it, I'll take her. Not because of your wealth, not because of your land, but because no soul deserves to be treated like a burden. I see her as a human being, not a joke." For the first time, Thomas was speechless. He expected Jacob to refuse, to be humiliated, but instead, Jacob's courage forced him to keep his word. And so, Emily, broken in spirit and confined to a chair, was sent to live on the struggling ranch. At first, Emily resented Jacob. She believed she was nothing more than pity to him, a charity case. Nights passed where she wept silently, missing her home, even though her father had given her away like a worthless token. But Jacob never treated her as less. He spoke to her as an equal, asked for her opinions about the ranch, and even carried her outside so she could feel the sun and watch the cattle. Slowly, Emily began to notice something. Jacob never saw her chair. He only saw her. Time went by, and though Emily could not walk, she discovered she had talents Jacob deeply needed. She was intelligent and organized, skilled at reading and managing accounts. She began handling the ranch's finances, writing letters, keeping track of cattle sales, and suggesting better ways to manage their small land. What was once a failing ranch slowly began to thrive, not because of strength or wealth, but because of Emily's sharp mind. The townsfolk, who once mocked Jacob for being poor and Emily for being paralyzed, now started whispering differently. They saw cattle multiplying, debts paid off, and a ranch that grew stronger every season. And at the heart of it all was the young woman everyone thought was broken. But challenges came too. One stormy night, a gang of rustlers targeted Jacob's ranch, believing it would be easy prey. Jacob fought bravely, but he was outnumbered. Emily, sitting helpless in her chair, faced a choice: remain silent or use the one thing she still had on her mind. She quickly devised a plan, instructing the ranch hands where to trap the rustlers, and even fired a warning shot with a rifle to scare them off. That night, the ranch was saved not by Jacob's strength, but by Emily's courage. News of her bravery spread across town. For the first time, people no longer saw Emily as a burden. They saw her as a woman of strength. Even Thomas, the proud sheriff, heard of what had happened. He rode to the ranch, expecting to see his daughter still weak and dependent. But what he found stunned him. Emily was smiling, her face lit with purpose, as she worked beside Jacob, managing a thriving ranch. Thomas's pride crumbled that day. Tears filled his eyes as he realized the cruel joke he had once made was the very decision that gave his daughter her life back. She wasn't a symbol of shame anymore, she was a symbol of resilience. He bowed his head before Jacob and Emily, whispering, "Forgive me. I didn't see her worth, but you did." Years passed, and the ranch became one of the strongest in the region. Emily never walked again, but she stood taller than anyone in spirit. She proved that strength wasn't in legs or wealth, but in courage, wisdom, and heart. And Jacob, the poor rancher, became wealthy beyond gold because he had seen what no one else did, Emily's true potential. And so, whenever people in town spoke of them, they didn't call Emily the paralyzed daughter anymore. They called her the Iron Lady of the ranch, the woman who turned weakness into power. My friends, this story reminds us of something powerful. Sometimes what the world calls a burden is actually a hidden blessing. Never measure someone's worth by what they lack. True strength is not in what you can do with your body, but in what you can rise to do with your spirit.